You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet talk radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Welcome to the Linda Fostek Show. Disasters are all around us. Turn on the news and Mother Nature is on a rampage. Personal disasters put our lives on hold or derail us completely. Join Linda as she invites you to become part of the solution. It's time to get off the worry-go-round with your host, Linda Fostek.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. If you would like to join the conversation tonight, please call in at 866-451-1451. Don't let the next disaster catch you by surprise. Get your free disaster planning roadmap and disaster checklist today at thecrisisplanner.com. And you might want to check out my home disaster kit, which really gives you a start on getting your go bag together with all your important information. And it gives you a lot of great tools to making sure that you can be safe in your home. And we are here tonight, and it's kind of a somber week. I have to say, my show format's going to be a little bit different tonight, in that I'm not going to be doing the in the news segments that I usually do because I have a lot that I want to cover. Tonight is going to be my tribute to 9/11. And so we begin. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Today, so much like that Tuesday morning of September 11th, was a beautiful, bright, sunny, blue sky day, a perfect September day with low humidity, and it wasn't so hot. It was just that perfect morning when I went out this morning, and just as it was on September 11th. I remember getting up early that morning and heading off to vote in the New York primary, because it was a primary before the election. And for whatever reason, I didn't have my radio on in the car that morning. And I went to vote in the primary. And when I came out, there was a message from my sister-in-law, who lived in, I guess she was in South Carolina at the time, is where she was living. And she says, what's going on? A plane hit the World Trade Center, was her message. So I called her back and I said, what are you talking about? I have no idea what she was talking about. I was so confused as far as what had happened. And she said, yeah, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. So I put the radio on. I thanked her for letting me know. And I said, well, there must have been an accident of some sort. Put the radio on, and I'm driving to my husband's place of business. At that time, he owned a print shop on Larkfield Road. And I was driving to the place of business, and a second plane hit the second tower. At this point, I'm saying, this is no accident. We are under attack. And next thing I heard was that a plane had hit the Pentagon, and they were still a plane missing that they didn't know where it was. And as I'm driving to my husband's place of business, the radio announcer says, "Oh my God, it's a mushroom cloud." And all I could think of was a flashback to my early school days where we did the, the air raid, the nuclear explosion drills where we were supposed to hide under our desk and cover our heads. I don't know what that was going to do, but when the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred, that's what we were trained to do. And all I could do was sit in my car. I started shaking so badly I could hardly drive, and I'm counting 1001, 1002, because I knew I was 40 miles from New York City, and it would take 5 seconds. If I was still here after 5 seconds, it wasn't nuclear, but I thought for sure there was a nuclear blast that had gone off in New York City. I was shaking so hard when I pulled into the parking lot of my husband's place of business and forgetting completely that he was at a doctor's appointment, so he wasn't even there. So somehow I managed to get home and put on the TV and watched everything. So I was totally shaken up, as were so many people on that morning as we heard the news and watched in disbelief as the towers fell and collapsed. So I'm going to take you through a timeline of that morning so that we can all have a clear memory of what happened and the order it happened. So at 7:59 in the morning, American Airlines Flight 11 takes off from Boston Logan's Airport. At 8:14, Flight 11 is hijacked. At 8:14 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 also takes off from Boston Logan Airport, bound for Los Angeles. At 8:20, American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Washington Dulles International Airport, also bound for Los Angeles. And at 8:42 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 takes off from Newark International Airport, bound for San Francisco International Airport. Now, all of these airplanes are large, wide-body airplanes carrying a tremendous amount of fuel. They had all been completely fueled up for their cross-country flights, so they were flying bombs. At 8:42 a.m., Flight 175 is hijacked. At 8:46, Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower, and that was what precipitated the phone call from my sister-in-law. At 8:50, Flight 77 is hijacked, and at 9:03, Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. We are going to be continuing this timeline on the other side of our break. So once again, I am your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are coming to you live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and we will see you on the other side of the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and we are continuing with our tribute to 9/11. And like I said, I may get emotional as we go through this because was an extremely emotional experience for so many of us. And, there are many people that don't have any memory because of this, because they weren't even born yet. So, or they were too young to have a memory of it. And thankfully their parents kind of protected them from seeing this, because this was such a traumatic event. It could have had a huge impact on young children as well. So, at this point, by 8:50 in the morning, 3 airlines have been hijacked. Flight 11 out of Boston, Flight 175 also out of Boston, and Flight 175 out of Boston, Flight 11 out of Boston, and Flight 77, which flew out of Washington, Dulles, have all been hijacked. At 9:03, Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center between the 77th and 85th floors. Now, earlier at 8:46, Flight 11 had crashed into the North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floors. And these buildings had like a central column of elevators that went through the whole building. So you imagine these huge flying bombs flying into the building and all that burning fuel pouring down those elevator shafts, filling the entire building with fire and smoke. It is more than I can ever imagine. And structurally, when Flight 75 crashed into the building between the 77th and 85th floors, it went in at an angle on the corner of the building, which really took out the structural integrity of the building. So there was evidently going to be a catastrophic failure. At 9:28, Flight 93 is hijacked, which was the flight out of Newark. At 9:37, Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. And when I heard that, I said, oh my God, we're under attack. This is, somebody's declared war on us. I had never lived through an attack on the United States of America. I mean, my parents had lived through Pearl Harbor, and, obviously we didn't have it live on the news, where we actually could see the videos until much later. It took, the communications were not the same as they were in 2001, obviously, when Pearl Harbor happened. At 9:59, the South Tower collapses, which was actually the second tower that was hit, but it was the first tower to come down. At 10:03, Flight 93 crashes into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So how did that happen? All these others were obviously targeting buildings. How did that happen? And it wasn't until later that we found out about the heroic efforts of the people on that flight that ended up crashing in Shanksville. And at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapses, and into this giant pile of rubble, burning, smoking, a cloud of dust covered everybody who was running from the towers. Um, Everyone looked exactly the same because the people who died in those towers that day and who died in the Pentagon that day were a cross section of America. Every race, every creed, every nationality you can imagine. When they read the names and you hear the names that are being read, you know that 2011 at 1 in the morning that bin Laden, the leader of Al Qaeda, the mastermind of everything against us, was killed in Pakistan by SEAL Team 6. So it's really, when you think about it, it took us 10 years to locate this man that perpetuated such evil on us. I'm just, it's so devastating to me that this was such a horrible event. And when you look back at it, I mean, there are miracles that morning. People that should have been in the towers that weren't there that day. They missed their train. They had an issue with a child at home. I have friends, a friend's husband he worked across the street from uh, the World Trade Center. He didn't go into work that morning because his son was sick and he had to take care of his little boy. So he opted not to go into work that morning. And I mean, debris and everything landed in his office building. A distant relative was at a golf outing that day, and one of the engines from an airplane and landed in his office in downtown. People who ran into the disaster, the number of firefighters and police officers and first responders that ran into the disaster while everyone else was running away. We lost so many firefighters that day and so many first responders and police officers who were there to help others, especially in the tower collapse. My best man's son was in ladder 3, and they were all in the tower as it started to collapse. And they ran down the stairs as the building is collapsing above them, and half of them went to the right and half of them went to the left, and everybody who went to the right survived, and everyone who went to the left was killed. The survivor guilt of those people who survived was horrific. I mean, this was probably one of the defining events of my lifetime. We are going to be taking our next break. Once again, I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and we will continue this tribute to 9/11 and its aftermath when we come back from the break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio with a very special tribute to 9/11, remembering this event 20 years ago and what has transpired over the last 20 years as well, which we will be getting to. But certainly 9/11, for those of us who were old enough to understand what happened and to really be emotionally connected with the people that were affected by this, it has left an indelible imprint in our lives. It's one of 3 dates in history, 3 events in history that I will never forget where I was when these events happened. And for me, the first one was when JFK was shot, and being in 7th period music class when the announcement came over the loudspeaker that our president had been assassinated. And it was like, what? What? That day I will never forget. And then the next day, watching Jack Ruby shoot Oswald live on TV. It was like the first time anything like that had ever been broadcast on TV, but they were film, the news was there when Oswald was being paraded out that they had captured him, and Jack Ruby ran up with a gun and shot him. And it was like, oh my God, this is like live on television. I mean, we take that kind of stuff for granted now because everybody's got cameras and there's, all these things. But that moment in time, it was such a shock to the whole country's psyche. The second date that I'll never forget where I was when we landed on the moon. What an exciting moment of time that was. I remember sitting in my Aunt Doris's living room, watching it on her small little TV that she had, watching them actually land on the moon. And then the third date that has stuck with me forever has been 9/11. And, watching it and the news, you just kept watching it. You couldn't stop watching it. Every channel had the same pictures of the planes flying into the building and the buildings coming down and the fire and the smoke. And quite honestly, 2 days after this happened, I had to go into Manhattan because my husband had to go in for pre-testing for his back surgery, which was scheduled for a week later. And so I drove into Manhattan, and you could smell the smoke in the air. You could almost smell death. And it was so eerily quiet. There was no one on the roads. And I'm driving into Manhattan to go to the hospital for special surgery. And actually, that wasn't even that day. 2 days later, we took the train in because we didn't dare drive. And actually, we took a cab up to the hospital for special surgery. He had his testing done, and we're taking a cab back down. And just as we get to where Macy's is, where the Penn Station is, all of a sudden, traffic stops dead still, and everybody's pouring out of the buildings. There was a bomb scare, and all these police cars are coming down the street, and we're just stopped. And in the middle of this, my husband is having a low sugar attack from his diabetes and had to get some food. And I paid the cab driver, and we ran into a Burger King and sat there. And by the time he had eaten something and we came out, it had been a false alarm, but everybody was so on edge and so nervous. We walked the block down to Penn Station, down the stairs, the 2 escalators, onto the train, and the train pulled out of the station like as soon as we sat down, and I was never so happy to get out of Manhattan in my life. The following week, when he went in for surgery, every day I was driving in, and the smoke, you could taste it, you could feel it in the air, and you could see the fire was still burning, and it was just this horrific thing going on. In the weekend between, we had a friend who had a little cottage on Breezy Point on Rockaway, and we had gone there for a barbecue, and her cottage overlooked the southern tip of Manhattan. And there were probably about 20 of us at this party, at this barbecue, and we're all sitting on the deck. And it was so silent because normally when you were there, you heard the airplanes taking off from JFK, and there was a lot of noise, boats and planes and all kinds of things. But there wasn't anything happening in the air. No planes were taking off from JFK. We were looking at the southern tip of Manhattan, and all you could see was this huge cloud of smoke where the pile was still burning. And we're just watching it, mesmerized by it. And then out of nowhere, the scream of 2 F-111s come flying by. And it was like they were patrolling the skies, making sure that there was no other opportunity for somebody to crash another plane into a building. And then the eerie silence returned. And we stood there looking at each other like, oh my goodness, this is real. This is really happening. And so it was all of these things, these cumulative things. A gentleman who I worked, who was actually a coworker of mine, his sister was on the 53rd floor of one of the towers, and she walked down 53 flights of stairs, walked across the Brooklyn Bridge to Marine Park to her home, some probably 8 to 10 miles away, and to this day has no memory of how she got home. She to this day will not go up in a building that's taller than 3 stories high. That's the kind of trauma this produced. Another dear friend of mine was a retired fireman, and he couldn't stop watching it on TV, and he literally ended up with a PTSD experience as a result of this. We are going to be taking our next break. Once again, I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and we will continue our tribute to 9/11 when we come back from this break.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and this is a very special tribute to the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Before the break, I started to share a story about another friend of mine who was a retired fireman, and he couldn't stop watching the news on TV. He went to so many funerals of his brothers that had passed away at at the World Trade Center, trying to save others. And one day, I mean, the number of funerals he went to was astronomical. And in his dress uniform to pay tribute to these lost firefighters. And one day he comes home and he says to his wife, "What's that dog doing in the backyard?" His wife said, "That's our dog. We've had that dog for 2 years." "Where did that boat come from?" "That's our boat. We've had that boat for 2 years." She thought he was having a stroke because suddenly he was like so disoriented, and she rushed him to the hospital. And it turned out he was having a PTSD episode where he had blocked out 2 years of his life. And the doctors told him that he had to stop watching it on TV and he had to stop going to these funerals because it was just tearing him apart. He did recover from his PTSD experience, but how many others have had PTSD as a result of what happened on 9/11? It was only a couple days after that we declared war on the Taliban, who had basically harbored Al Qaeda and allowed them to train, and they were our enemy. And we went into Afghanistan, and then shortly thereafter we went to Iraq. But there is such a huge cost of war, and it is a price of freedom, certainly. And what we did in the 20 years since is that we stopped any attack from happening here in the United States. There have been a couple of lone wolves that have done really bad things. Fort Hood, Texas comes to mind. There was that incident in Florida with the Saudi airman who was being trained to fly planes, who suddenly shot some people. But for the most part, we have been kept safe because we brought the war to them instead of allowing them to bring the war to us. But certainly, war has tremendous costs. And, we lost 3,000, almost 3,500 people in Iraq, with 32,000 wounded in action. And then in Afghanistan, we also lost almost 2,000 in Afghanistan and had 20,000 more that came back injured. And their injuries, some of them are quite visible because there was a lot of loss of limbs. I mean, we actually had a much lower death rate than we did in Vietnam because we were able to save so many more people. But some of their injuries are horrific. We see them in TV ads for different organizations that are supporting these wounded veterans. Lost 2 legs and an arm, I mean, lost 2 arms and a leg. Um, these are horrific injuries, and they will be with them for the rest of their lives. So the cost of war, I mean, we've spent $1 trillion or more on supporting the war effort, but it did keep us safe, and it did keep us from having to deal with war on our own country, on our own land. So truly, being in Afghanistan and Iraq, so far away, was it worth it? Yes. Did we all want to leave Afghanistan? Absolutely. Did we want to leave Afghanistan the way we left Afghanistan? That's the question. I think the way we departed Afghanistan was truly misguided in so many ways, but they did it backwards. The last thing you should do was pull the troops out. First, you should get out the Americans. Then you need to get out the people that helped us, who are going to be targeted for death. Then you need to take out the equipment. We left billions and billions of dollars with equipment. Now we have the best supplied terrorist organizations in the world running an entire country. So I really have some issues with that. But I did want to talk a little bit about the last casualties of the war in Afghanistan, which are really one of the last casualties of 9/11, although there are ongoing casualties that are happening every day with cancer victims and people who are succumbing to cancer as a result of 9/11, and I'll be talking about that a little later in the program. But let's talk about the last 13 casualties of the war in Afghanistan, which occurred on August 26th, 2021, almost 20 years to the day of the 9/11 attacks. And I want to read the names and ages and where these young men and women were from, who were there protecting the people who were trying to escape before we left. They were bringing people into safety. They were guiding people into the airport in a bottleneck that was ideal for a terrorist attack, but they knew, and they were warned, and yet they stood there in their post and did their job, even in the face of danger where they knew they could die. I want to remember those young men and women, starting with the Marines. And we will get through that list when we come back from the next break. Once again, I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and we are having a conversation on remembering 9/11, its aftermath, and just some of the things that have happened and continue to happen as a result of that attack on the United States of America.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And this is my very special tribute to the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and its aftermath. And before the break, I promised to read the names of the last 13 casualties of the war in Afghanistan, which was directly precipitated immediately after 9/11. We went into Afghanistan to get the Taliban, who had facilitated and given safe harbor to Al-Qaeda. So let's start with the Marines. Sergeant Johnny Rosario Picardo, 25 years old, from Lawrence, Massachusetts, one of the two women who were killed that day on August 26, 2021. At the airport. Sergeant Nicole L.G., 23, of Sacramento, California, the second woman whose life was taken that day. Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, 31 years old, of Salt Lake City, Utah. He was the oldest of those killed on that day. Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22 years old, of Indio, California. Corporal Dagan W. Page, 23, of Omaha, Nebraska. Corporal Umberto W. Page, Umberto A. Sanchez, 22, of Logansport, Indiana. Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, just 20 years old, of Tio Bravo, Texas. Lance Corporal Gerard M. Schmitz, also 20 years old, of St. Charles, Missouri. Lance Corporal Riley M. McCullum, just 20 years old, of Jackson, Wyoming. Lance Corporal Dylan R. Marola, also 20 years old, of Chickamauga, California. Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nicole, also 20 years old, of Norco, California. When you see that there were 5 of these Marines that were 20 years old, they were infants when 9/11 happened. And most of these people that were killed on that day were young children when 9/11 happened, and they may not even have any recollection of that event. From the Navy, we lost Navy Corpsman Maxton W. Sovic, 22 years old, of Berlin Heights, Ohio. And we lost from the Army Staff Sergeant Ryan K. Krause, 23 years old, of Corryton, Tennessee. These young men and women put their lives on the line to save others, even when they knew that they were in grave danger of being attacked. Even when the warnings went out, they still stood their post and helped people to be rescued and flown out of Afghanistan so that they may start a new life somewhere else where they won't be prosecuted or hunted down or murdered. These were the last casualties of war, but the casualties of 9/11 continue. The casualties, there's a lasting legacy of 9/11 with cancer. So many first responders have succumbed. I mean, while 2,750 Americans died that day at the World Trade Center, more than 2,000 first responders who helped at Ground Zero and workers that helped at Ground Zero have died since from illnesses attributed to their time on the pile. You know, they told them that the air was safe. They told them that there wasn't all this toxic stuff going on, but there was no way that I would have believed that. But they did. They trusted. And, you know, they're getting cancers at extremely high rates. In fact, overall, the cancer rate is 9% higher than the general public, but 41% higher for leukemia, 25% higher for prostate cancer, and 219% higher for thyroid cancer. And the prostate cancer that they're succumbing to is an aggressive form of prostate cancer, not one that's typically found. And a lot of it's attributed to the toxic dust, which had many known carcinogens, soot, benzene, cement, asbestos, heavy metals, hydrocarbons, and dioxins were all in that toxic dust. And nobody was walking around with N95 masks or respirators to make sure that they were breathing clean air. They were still, you know, when it was at its worst, they were certainly searching for and hoping to find more survivors, you know, and they really, the funds that have been set up to help those people that have been infected, whether they lived in the zone or they were first responders, is really, really important. I'm going to kind of sing another song, and it's something that I love as well. So I'll start. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, through the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. And I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart, that I do live in one of the greatest countries in the world. Because why would so many immigrants be pouring in from across our southern border trying to escape where they live? Why would over 107,000 Afghanis try to flee Afghanistan for a better life? It's because we are the shining light. Even with our warts and all, we may not be perfect, but we have the potential to always be improving. We are going to be taking our next break. Once again, I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio with our special tribute to 9/11 20th anniversary. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Mike Zorich, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Linda Fostek, and this is the Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. We are live tonight on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio with my special tribute to the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And, you know, there's some positive things that have come out of this. I mean, there are programs and things that are helping people in ways that we can only imagine. I drove past the Guide Dog Foundation today, and they had a vet dogs program for veterans that they were advertising. There is a musical on Broadway called Come From Away, which celebrates the little town of Gander in Labrador in Newfoundland, Canada, where they received 39 planes that were grounded on 9/11 and hosted over 7,000 people in this tiny little town where they fed them and housed them and kept them safe on 9/11. You have, Tunnel to Towers, which is just one of the most amazing organizations, providing homes, mortgage-free homes for families that have lost loved ones in 9/11, first responders who are killed in the line of duty, for police officers and soldiers that are killed in the line of duty. And they're doing so many great things. And they are going to be honoring all the people that have died post 9/11 on 9/12 by reading the names of those who have died since. And then on Veterans Day, they're going to be actually reading the names of the service people who have passed away. So there's so many good things that have come out of 9/11, and certainly it did bring us closer together. And sometimes we forget how important it is to be together. So I want to read a little poem that I wrote to say thank you. As you close your eyes to sleep tonight, drifting off in peaceful slumber, into the land of dreams, know this. I am standing post on a base far away from home. I am standing watch on a ship out at sea. I am fueling and maintaining another stealth fighter jet. I am practicing precision assault with my team. I am guiding a drone over enemy territory. I am monitoring a network of satellites. I am listening to the enemy plotting their next move. I am signing up to serve the country that I love. I am facing enemy gunfire. I am receiving a Purple Heart. My husband or wife is being handed the perfectly folded American flag. My mother and father are crying as taps is played. My life and my death has meaning because I am an American soldier, sailor, Marine, or airman. All I ask is a thank you and your prayers that I may return home to the country that I love so much. I'm willing to give my life so you can sleep safely tonight. Sweet dreams. Thank you for joining me this week. Don't let the next disaster blindside you. Get your free disaster planning checklist today at thecrisisplanner.com. Be sure to tune in next week as we explored keeping our kids safe with Josephine Girassi of My Mom Knows Best. This is Linda Fostek, and you have been listening to The Linda Fostek Show. Get off the worry-go-round. on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Be safe out there. Be happy. No worries. Say thank you to a serviceman or woman that is protecting us. Thank you, and good night.
You've been listening to The Linda Fostek Show. Join Linda each week for interesting topics such as In the News, Extreme Prepping, and Home Sweet Home. Right here on The Linda Fostek Show.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.